we have been listening about the result one of this MTCC project is about capacity building in the region. So it is important that before we proceed into our next sessions, the purpose of this presentation is to first let's define what is capacity building and how we are going to capture it. So that is important to bring, because capacity building is a very wide term. We need to bring it down to, with respect to function of MTCC and how it will capture implementation and ratification of Annex 6 MARPOL. So as we go further in this presentation in next 18 to 20 minutes, I will capture what is capacity building, why there is a need for framework when we are talking about capacity building, what are the key challenges as of now, what should be the key ingredients of such a framework which will assist us in capacity building, the role of stakeholders, lot have been said about it, so we'll see how they can play in capacity building frameworks. And in my closing slide, we'll see as a region, as we are regional participants here, how we can contribute to this capacity building and what should we focus on in our next step. So why climate change mitigation? First thing is this. So a lot have been said about it, including our opening ceremony today. So it's not anymore that climate is changing. We are already living in a changed climate. The world is there already. We can't escape from it anymore. The damage has been done. We are not talking about anymore where we'll reduce the impact but counteract it now. So this is not new. This is on the UNFCCC Agenda 2030, which has a wider agenda on capacity building to mitigate climate change. But we have to, we'll see how we bring it down to IMO's perspective and how it relating to shipping. Now, current and future climate uncertainty, it throws up several challenges for governments, communities, and individuals around the world. Now, why this challenge we are talking over here is because the sustainable development of any country, we have to pursue interests which are we have to identify the cross-cutting opportunities. We cannot focus on one aspect and forget other, because when we are talking of climate change mitigation, everything is so interconnected. And as regards to mitigation, programs and activities are focused on the provision of technical assistance, advisory services through bilateral and multilateral channels to promote low emission development, especially in recipient countries. And this will cover institutional, systematic and individual capacity, aiming at enabling the promotion of energy efficiency technology, policies, transfer of renewable energy technologies. So mitigation, learning from this, will certainly demand designing and implementation of procedures and measures. Now when we are setting up these measures, we also need to set up how we'll monitor climate related parameters. Again, it will require adoption of new technologies and methods. As we are discussing here, the 70th session of IMO MEPC, which was held in October last year, the technology cooperation and need for capacity building in technology and human resources skills were acknowledged under the agenda item 11 and 12. And this will be again coming up in first week of July when MEPC meets for their 71st session. So capacity development process often need to establish and nurture linkages between actors and systems operating at different levels. Now as we go through the presentation, we'll see the different levels of capacity building. So raising awareness on climate change is a part of capacity building, which will be again addressed through this workshop and through the activities of MTCC. So before we move on to supporting framework, let's see the definition of capacity building. So capacity building, as per UNFCCC COP22 Article 11, is to implement adaptation and mitigation actions and should facilitate technology development, dissemination and deployment access to climate finance. It's a keyword there. Relevant aspects of education, training and public awareness, and the transparent, timely and accurate communication of information. So if we see that, this is pretty much in line with our 5 results of MTCC. Now capacity building under this agreement should enhance the capacity and ability of developing country. Now this is exact from COP 22 Article 11. What I also want to highlight here is some other perspectives on capacity. From the existing literature, one of them is an organization with capacity has the ability to function as a resilient, strategic and autonomous entity. Capacity also represents potential for using resources effectively. So we may talk about lack of resources, but capacity is more on using the available resources more effectively and maintaining gains in performance with gradually reduced levels of external support. Then again, keyword for us, external support, reduced levels of it. So it means this is for us to do something here for our region, we have to act. Capacity is the potential to perform. Capacity is the ability of people, organizations and society as a whole to manage their affairs successfully. The capacity is the emergent contribution of attributes that enable the human system to create development value. So this wider capturing of definition of capacity brings us into a perspective as how we are bringing it to the maritime sector and move forward on it. As we go further, we also have to understand that capacity is not a static or state or a quality. Capacity is about concrete, real-life action, abstract organizational abilities, and it must be seen to be believed. So, we can talk about capacity is about performance, it is about creating some form of added value for the members and the outside world. It must sustain, staying alive and active. Capacity develops as much through relationships between actors as it does within individual organizations. Capacity development therefore involves unleashing collaboration, but also dealing with power and politics, because priorities has to be right if we want to work on capacity. And most important, self-renew, it is about adjusting and developing continuously over the time on the basis of external pressures and internal drivers. So this is again, the last point is one of the things when we are in our breakout sessions, we will be highlighting external pressures when we are, because these are the two factors which will feed into national priorities and regional priorities. So we will underline the drivers and challenges both in them. I would further like to emphasize that capacity is fueled by local actors, ambitions and resources which cannot be replaced by external inputs and finance. So this is for us as local actors to participate and develop on strategies on our own capacity development. Just going touch back to UNFCCC here, again, just to give you a background that capacity building is nothing new. It has been on the agenda since 1992, where it started with focus on education, training and awareness. Moved further, Kyoto Protocol came and it captured education and training and further strengthening of national capacity building. Coming down further, 2011, Durban Forum on Capacity Building created a multi-stakeholder forum that meets annually. So again, the role of stakeholders is understood and we need to emphasize on that further as MTCC. Now in 2016, I'm just jumping over. So COP21 adopted the Paris Agreement, which created the Paris Committee on Capacity Building to oversee work of plan, which will go into 2020. So the process is on, but again, the purpose of this slide being there is not that it is something new. It tells you that capacity is on the agenda always. But the thing is, then why the challenge for ourselves to see that we have been investing in capacity building, or at UN there have been investments in capacity building, but why the results are moving at a very slower pace? what we need to act on, where are the key drivers, identify them, and invest in them. So why we are talking about building a capacity is that as we understand capacity building, so new challenges demand human, technical, institutional and financial capacity to deal with. That's why we need a framework on capacity building. Augment the present development efforts. So we know that capacity building is in process at some stage, at some level. So we need to augment that. Again, this was one of our priorities as MTCC when we were doing our work plan, not to duplicate the efforts which are already there. So as you are here, you will get a chance to say that if any such activity is already in process, bring that as opportunity, share with us so we don't duplicate those efforts again. And safeguard the development gains. Now, it's all good talk till now, but if we see that on the far end, when I was highlighting that why the results have been slow is because capacity building is a risky, murky, messy business with unpredictable and unquantifiable outcomes. Uncertain methodologies, contested objectives, many unintended consequences, and little credit to its champions and long time lags. This is the reason why by the time we see the effect of capacity, maybe that's the reason now we are seeing the effect of climate change, but the capacity building is lagging behind it. So by the time we'll see the effects, I hope it's not too late. So what are the challenges? So two challenges. There are many, I'm just highlighting two of them here, one is variations between countries. Because for us, if we are coming as a regional body, MTCC Caribbean, we need to identify that within our region, all of us differ significantly in terms of mix of wealth, poverty, related scores on development indexes, the nature of economies, our political systems, relation between our civil society, private sector, government, and how things move forward, character and speed of administrative process, and as well as our own natural environments. So that is again the whole idea of the workshop will be to capture your national priorities which will feed into regional priorities. And second, the nature of interventions. Obviously these will be driven by variations between countries where capacity building interventions tend to focus on the lower end of hierarchy. Much support is in the form of advice giving rather than strengthening through a form of facilitation, enabling development of top elements. So again, this is a key factor which I think we need to invest in when we are talking of capacity building, because there is no shortage of consultancies, there is no dearth of studies where people have come to our region and given the solution and this would work for us or not. But then why it didn't work? So that picture on the side, we have been trying to, peg it with the wrong shape. So I think it's time enough, and this is a good initiative on IMO's part, where if you go back into energy efficiency studies, this is nothing new on maritime platform. Classification societies have abundance of technological knowledge, abundance of data. But why did IMO come and choose? If you see the 5 MTCCs, 4 out of them are universities. I think there is a specific reason behind it. So when we are talking of capacity building, first thing, nobody understands our needs better than us, because we are affected directly. And what will work for us, we know it already. So why not to act on this? So this is the first step, I think, in the right direction, is where IMO has come forward and selected among us to go and look for our regional priorities and work on it. So recognizing these two factors, variation between countries, and accordingly design our nature of interventions, it will make sense how they interact, and is critical to bringing about the change that should lead to greater effectiveness. Okay, when we are talking of why we need a framework, so the framework will emphasize on changes in use of knowledge and information that will empower, again, local agents. So to guide the capacity needs assessments and identify capacity constraints, we will need engagement from local agents, which can be form of administrators, maritime administrations, stakeholders, industry partners. Then focus on change efforts targeting institutional and policy-related constraints and opportunities. Again, going back to the feedback which we have received and the literature review which we have done in preparation to MTCC, we can see that legal challenges or lack of legal framework is one of the major challenges within the region. So we need a framework to address that. And then use of standardized indicators for needs assessment and result measurement. Again, because one of the challenge for result one for us as MTCC would be to quantify the capacity building. So it means the methodology has to be clear where we can give a value that where we were, not only as MTCC, excuse me for using that again and again, but when I say MTCC, it means MTCC Caribbean, which is all of us. So at end of 3 years at least for this project, we should be able to give a clear step that where we were at beginning of 3 years and this is where we are now, and using a proper methodology will give a measurement to those results. So we'll speak more about it as we will go into our sub-regional workshops. So it is important to build indicators into program designed to track progress and when necessary adjust program for improved adaptive management. So to compare programs and determine what does and does not work must be easy to come out from that. So when we are determining on how we are measuring capacity building, so we will know down the lane in 6 months or 9 months or within halfway of the project that what is working and what is not working for us. But framework must target 5 core capabilities, which is capability to act and self-organize, capability to generate development results, the capability to achieve coherence, capability to adapt and self-renew, and capability to relate to the results as I stated earlier, which will be there. So how the development of each capability is best approached in reality and interacts with other critical issues, 2 of which were our differences as each country and how we will need to design interventions based on that. The uncertain and emergent nature of capacity also implies that its development is unlikely to be a linear, well-planned, predictable process. Now again, we know of this limitation and we have to be careful when our regional steering committee meets and how we are discussing which will work. It may happen, we already know that out of 16 territories, what will work for one territory may not work for another. And similarly, when we are talking of regions, what may work for one region will not work for the another region. It may work as well. If it's working everywhere, our job will be easy. So, different levels of capacity. Why this is important to understand is because when we are designing interventions for capacity building, we have to see which level we want to target. So, it starts from individual, going up to organizational. Sector here is maritime sector in our case, national and regional. So planning of framework must answer who the process must be addressed to, who will benefit, who will initiate it, who will fund it, and what we want to achieve, what will be our goal at that level. What are the pitfalls to watch out for, and the levels of capacity must be included. So there can be one, so when we are designing our capacity building activities, at what level they are aimed at. Are we aiming it to organizational or individual level, or workshops like this where we are reaching out to the national or regional level? So this is also important, and that this will give us a starting point and it will be easy for the relevant people, and creative thinking and conflict resolution. So again, as I said, there will be difference of opinions. These, when we are targeting at different levels, we'll get different opinions, but workshops like this would give a platform where we can resolve and contribute towards an approach which would reflect on the region. So the first process, before we target which to go where we need to target, which level of capacity is to, before that we need a needs analysis. So when we are talking of needs analysis, that is what is, when you are doing that, it will help you to realize what are our existing capabilities and desired capacities. So if you see, capacity analysis breaks out into two: existing and desired. So as of now, desired again are going into our vision of MTCC, where we need effective implementation of Annex 6, MAPOL, maybe going into future, Caribbean being a emission control area. So all that is desired, but how we are going to achieve that? So we need to do that gap analysis where we are as of now and what is desired. So when we are doing where we are as of now, existing capacities, we'll see our institutional arrangements, how is knowledge sharing within the region, and what are the functional capacities in reference to technology, finance and stakeholder engagement. So this exercise will help us identify key capacities, establish capacities at different levels as described in previous slide, and wherever we need additional capacity to achieve objective. So if I put it in a nutshell, once we are clear of our existing capacities, desired capacities, so desired capacities subtract existing, we know where we need to head to or where we can go to IMO and say, okay, these are the areas where we need assistance. As I said, the role of stakeholders is important because as such, maritime sector or industry is a multi-stakeholder process and collaboration is required. So in this we will have, there is a need to work with multiple actors within and across public, private and civil actors. And the challenge will be how to combine a strong results orientation with flexibility and learning, ways to build connections between local realities, macro policies and programs, professional knowledge, attitudes and skills for doing effective capacity development. So again, we have to see, this will come out as one of the results of capacity building workshops as where we can support region. It's not only a subtraction where we say, okay, this is what we are lacking. We are not here to find out what we lack. We are also here to find out where we can support each other within a region. We may have some capacities in excess where we can help our neighbors. Or you have something in excess which we can develop on. So that is also key ingredient to the workshop. We'll be seeing where we can help each other. The wider stakeholders we need in the capacity building, we will need their participation when we are making decisions, because that will be they can do a formal consultative process. So it's easy for industry or other stakeholders to buy in. Then stakeholder voice in decisions is important because again it gives the easy buy-in. How that can be ensured, because when we are developing this framework, we must ensure that there is a clear communication to stakeholders, that how we are going to proceed further, what is their experience. Supportiveness of stakeholders, again feedback from stakeholders is included in operational processes wherever we are working as a regional maritime training cooperation center. What will be the gains of including stakeholders? Improved consensus, much needed awareness, enhanced skills, then fostered coalitions, networks, efficient implementation, strategy and plan. Again, coming up with something, again we see the maximum challenges are faced when we go into the implementation stage. So there is where stakeholders come in, because if we have a clear buy-in from stakeholders, the implementation processes become easy. As we have been talking about measuring where we are in capacity and how we will be going forward, or see how we are improving in capacity, these are three indicators of many which may be relevant to our region again. So when we are measuring where we are as of now in capacity and where we want to say, so we can measure on conducive social political environment, how favorable it is to the achieving the agenda on MTCC vision or about Annex 6 of MAPOL. So committed leadership, accountability of public service, transparency of process and stakeholder engagement. Second is efficient policy instrument. Again, clarity and consistency, incentives for compliance. This cannot be less underlined, because we know in our sector, maritime sector, the first thing which works out without any initiative is business sense. As soon as ship owner is aware that this step makes a business sense, he's all okay for it. So there has to be incentives for compliance, administrative ease of implementation, no negative consequences. As I said, these things are so cross-cutting and related to each other. Then flexible to addressing varying situations. Efficient organizational structure. Structure is other thing, so which can be measured on how efficient we are operationally, our adaptability as an organization, anticipation and response to change. And not the least, financial viability. We have to see that this funding is only for 3 years, how we are going to sustain ourselves after that. So much has been said about it. How MTCC is going to play a catalytic role if we are coming up with a framework towards capacity building. So it's to build capacity in mitigating climate change from maritime activities. So we'll target workshops like this. We'll be coming to again each of your regions and doing similar workshops. By the time we'll have more data with us. I should also take this opportunity here to thank our MSD Director, Mr. Alford here. We already if you are not aware, by 1st June of this year, we have a shipping notice in effect where all ships coming into Trinidad and Tobago are voluntarily required to submit their data which is used for this pilot project, our pilot project 3. So they are already submitting their data in relation to energy efficiency and the technologies they have on board. That's already started on 1st June 2017. Maximize synergies. So if we to reduce the repeatability of efforts, transformational context, and then activities. Again, as MTCC, we are situated in Trinidad, but we are not here to address only needs of Trinidad and Tobago. We are here to address the needs of the region. So where you can call us for one-to-one support once you have your national priorities. That's why the workshop is divided into national and regional priorities. So it may happen that all your national priorities may not move into regional priorities. So we will be able to answer your national priorities on one-to-one. Then facilitate knowledge sharing, technology update. Then track capacity building initiatives and building data baseline through our 2 pilots. So what is required as of now is to make institutional capacity building a priority for the creation and strengthening of basic institutional infrastructure. Then raise awareness at various levels. So the levels which here correspond to the capacity levels mentioned earlier on climate change, and increase the involvement of national governmental organizations in capacity building activities. To develop and promote exchange of best practices, experiences and information on capacity building activities undertaken by various parties, including financial resources, case studies and tools for capacity building. And now, last but not the least, financial and technical resources. So, but before financial is self-explanatory here, but technical resources, for us when we were designing our pilot 1, it was important to take a gauge of what technologies are available and existing before we go out at global level and say this is what we need for us. So it is need to create a baseline and then a supporting legal framework which will allow clear transfer of such technologies, because there may be challenges with intellectual property rights or different aspects of it. So there are challenges to technology transfer. So it is important to address those issues also when we are investing in capacity building. So before I close, I'll just capture again, because capacity building is a very wide topic. We need to bring it down to maritime, and it can start at any level. As mentioned in there, starting from individual, going up to national and regional. A small example if I can share with you, we have an open day for our university coming in July 3rd week. So where this will be highlighted again. So the children in school at the age of say 13, 14 years, they're already thinking about it. We being island nations, they need to think about from where these resources are coming, how critical maritime industry is for us and how it is affecting our future. So start to go into university, college and graduate level. So they understand the impact of all this. So That's it. Thank you very much for your attention.